It's been a little bit better now since we made the leap, from A&E over to Netflix, with the television show, because we're not quite as limited by that 42-minute basic cable format, which is kind of difficult, to tell a story in 42 minutes. To me, I would read the scripts and I would look at it and think this is like haiku, is what this is like. Whereas, for me, I can take the time to develop, the environs and the character and the relationship, describe all the things that are specific to what it is that I want, the reader to be aware of, and it's tough. And it was tough for them too, because I would read the scripts. One of the things they would do as a creative consultant, I read the scripts and give them feedback. Was they would send me the scripts, and I would see a really great scene, say between Lou Diamond Phillips, as Henry, and Robert Taylor as Walt, and I would think, oh wow, this is going to be a really incredible scene. I can't wait to see what they do with this. And then I'd get the episode, and the scene wasn't there. And the reason, of course, being that they ran long all the time like that. Well, the great thing with being with a streaming service like Netflix is that Longmire has all the time in the world. They don't really care over at Netflix how long the episodes are. They can be as long as they need to be to just tell the story. And boy, that's a powerful advantage to have in that great competition out there.
Oh, we really are in a I hate to use a cliche like golden age, but the opportunity to be able to to have a company like Netflix that would take it and then just take those shackles of the typical broadcast medium off is crazy. I hope authors realize what a prime opportunity time we're living in.
Oh, it is. I mean, in some ways, a lot of people have said, that the way that that television is evolving, with the serial, episodes, and the lengthier, episodes themselves. It's almost as if, it's almost as if that television is taking the place of those grand 19th century novels, that used to be so episodic, and like Bleak House, and things like that.
Right.
I mean, they fit so well, into this new dynamic, this new format, and I think it's changing. People have just gotten away from that. So many people nowadays don't even have a television, where they're getting broadcast television. And a lot of them are annoyed, by the fact that that they're paying as much, for cable television packages as they are for the rent. And what Netflix is, like $8 a month or something like that. And,
right.
And to my own enjoyment, I'm finding all of these quirky, strange little series. Some of them from the BBC, some of them from these Nordic countries. Some of them U.S. productions that never got a chance because they didn't fit into the pigeonholes that the networks and the cable companies wanted. And so here you got all these magnificent little series that nobody knows about, that are really great watching. I don't know how many times I'll be flipping through the channels in the evening if I'm just want to just sit in front of the television and just let it wash over me and there's nothing on. There's nothing. And so I'll flip on over to Netflix, and there'll be a couple of episodes or there'll be a couple of series that I've never even heard of, and I'll start watching them and I'm like sitting there thinking, why haven't I heard of this? Why didn't I hear about this? Why didn't I know that this existed?
It's so awesome. I want to shift gears for just a second and ask you about when you wrote that first Longmire novel. You said that you wanted it to feel like you were sitting on a stool next to Walt Longmire, and he said, "This is what happened to me last month." And you write these in the first person perspective, and that's also one advantage that the books have over TV or film is the ability to convey that first person perspective. Immediately when you open the book, you're diving right into Walt's mind and his world, and you're looking through his eyes. Did you ever debate on using first person versus third person, or was it ever not going to go this way?
Well, it was interesting because the first person kind of fallen into disfavor.
Yeah.
with a lot of writing schools like that, and a lot of writing theories. At the point in
Well, I
time.
think it's that. I think it's that literary versus genre
Yeah, yeah, and
demarcation.
I can understand that, because there's a lot of bad writing. It's a tricky tense. It's a tricky tense to take on like that, because you can either do it, or you can do it badly. Like it, and so it's kind of a difficult tense to write in, and it's produced a lot of bad novels. But I have to admit, like for me, there's never been a tense that has the electricity and the energy that that first person storytelling ability has. I mean, call me Ishmael is what it all boils down to. I remember
Yeah.
there with Richard Russo, like at the Tucson Book Festival, and somebody was asking about tense or something like that, and any tense is a good tense as long as there really isn't any the only it's like any other, the genres and all that kind of stuff. There really are only two genres when you get right down to it. There's good writing, and then there's bad writing. So what you aspire to, of course, is the good stuff, and trying to avoid the bad. But for me, there is a tradition, within crime fiction, of that first person, because the advantage that it gives you is that there are a couple of cardinal rules that you have to aspire to if you're going to write even skirting crime fiction or mystery novels or that type of thing. And then one is the playing fair system like that, which is if you're going to write these books and you're going to do the mechanics of a protagonist going through an investigation, you have to give the reader the same information that your protagonist has to make that fair, because otherwise, you get these horrible novels where a character suddenly appears, in chapter 24 that was never introduced anywhere along the line, and it's just not fair. You have to play fair with the audience and your readership, and I think that obviously, if you're using first person, the reader is getting the exact same information that the protagonist is getting at the exact same time that they're getting it. And so what that does is it makes for a pretty level playing field, as far as the characters are concerned and as far as the mechanics, of a mystery are concerned. And so, it's not something that's completely unusual within that particular genre, but it had kind of fallen into disfavor, and it allows for all kinds of opportunities too. I mean, sometimes I'll hear people who will say, well, they're just, I really like the books because there's a lot more humor in the books than there is in the television show. Well, one of the advantages that I have in the books is that you're in Walt's head, so you're hearing and seeing the things that Walt is thinking so much of the time, like that, which is a luxury that's not in the television show. And so a lot of the humor that's in the books, even though I think that there's more humor in the television show than a lot of people give it credit for, there's not going to be quite as much as there is in the book, simply because you see and feel and hear what it is that Walt is thinking, and an awful lot of the humor in the books tends to come from that. But hey, it's it's the way I started that first book, and now I'm on book number 12, I think it is, and I've never had to look back. It's a comfortable place to be inside Walt's head.